I'm 9 years old. As I look out the window of the car, I see our destination emerge from the fog. It's a big, old stone house, and it doesn't appear to have any windows. About 4 months ago, I moved from Toronto with my mum to Dublin, Ireland. We're living with my aunt and uncle and 4 cousins. I don't really fit in. This place is gray, and I wear purple socks and a yellow jacket. I'm homesick, and I stick out like a sore thumb. But I'm also a bit of a minor celebrity, because the kids at school want me to speak American while they laugh at my accent. In school, they do the roll call in Irish, so a kid named Marianne Dolan answers to Wuranya ni Rolan. I don't recognize my own name when I'm called, and another kid pokes me. I have to look. But I love Irish. I love the sound of the language. I love the fairy tales and the legends. Cuchulainn and Finn McCool, the warrior giant, and the king who's actually a magical poet. And now we're going to the west coast of Ireland for the first time, to my other cousins and the place where all of these fairy tales start. We pull up into the driveway, and the big stone house is surrounded by fields. You can see the ocean in the distance. Sitting on the stone wall outside the house is a kid a couple of years younger than me, and he says, "Hiya, I'm Mihal. I'm your cousin. Do you want to look around?" And I say, "Sure." And I follow him as he shows me the garden and the orchard and the stable and the barns. And then he takes me in the back door into the kitchen. The kitchen is a big room. It's got a flagstone floor and a large cast iron stove and a long wooden table on the other side. In the middle of all of this is my aunt. She's wearing a tweed skirt and an Aran cardigan and an apron. And she gives me a big hug and she says, "Sit down there, have something to eat." And she puts down fresh, warm bread and jam and butter, and I sit at the table and eat. As I'm sitting there, my Uncle Tommy comes in the door. He's huge. He's got wild hair and bushy eyebrows and a long nose, and he looks like an ogre out of the stories. He sits down at the table in front of me and he puts his arms on the table and he leans forward and he says, "How are ya?" How I am is terrified. I stare. My cousin Geraldine, who's come in with her father, is a couple of years older than me, and she's leaning against the wall with her hands behind her back, and I see her smile. And she says, "Come on, will I show you the house?" So I follow her out of the kitchen, down a long, dark, narrow hallway. There's a door at the end, but we don't stop there. She takes me upstairs instead, into another long, narrow hallway. On this floor, there's doors on both sides, and all the doors have a number. She opens one of the doors, and she says, "Here's your room." I go in. It's a big, beautiful room. It's got an overstuffed bed and a freestanding wardrobe and a basin and a jug for washing. The walls of the house are so thick that the window well is 2 feet deep. The whole house creaks, and it's dark, and it's slightly damp, but it feels magical, and I feel like a princess in a castle. The next morning, I get up and I go downstairs to breakfast. My mom and my aunt are talking. They're talking about the funeral and a wake for someone who's died. And my mom says to my aunt about someone who was there, "She was wailing like a banshee." And I say, "What's a banshee?" My mom and my aunt look at each other. I go, "What's a banshee?" My mom says nothing. I go, "Come on, what's a banshee?" My mom thinks. She says, Banshee is the sound of the wind when it's really wailing, and it sounds like a scream. Okay. I know I'm not getting the full story, but I also know I'm not getting anything else. Geraldine says, come on, Sheila, let's go down to the sea. So Micheál and I follow her out of the room, and as we leave, Micheál leans to me and he says, banshees are fairies that kill people. Probably Banshee got that one that died. I'm alarmed. The hair goes up on the back of my neck. But then I notice that Geraldine's by the door at the end of the hall. And I say, Geraldine, what's in there? And she says, oh, come on, I'll show you. She opens the heavy wooden door and we go into another bright room. But it's weird. There's 8 tables in there and lots of chairs. There's chairs around some of the tables. There's chairs lined up against the wall. Looks like a storage room for old furniture. And I say, why have you got all this? And she says, oh, it's from when people used to stay here. And that explains the numbers on the door. I wander around the room looking at the old paintings and photographs of people long since dead, and I notice a bell on the mantelpiece of the large open fire. I pick it up and I say, what's this? And Micheál turns quickly and he says, don't touch the bell. We're not allowed to touch the bell. And I look at Geraldine. Geraldine's, yeah, whatever. I say, does it ring? Micheál says, don't ring the bell. Don't ring the bell. You'll be calling bad things if you ring that bell. I look at Geraldine. She rolls her eyes. So I ring the bell. Micheál goes, he loses his mind. He says, you've done it now. You've done it. There's no going back. There's nothing you can do. You've called bad things in. Geraldine says, go on. Sheila, let's go down to the sea. Micheál says, I'm coming with you. Geraldine says, no, you're not. He says, I am. I'm coming with. Geraldine looks at me. She goes, come on, run. We bolt out the door, through the gate, across the field, over the stone wall, down a lane, across another wall, and then we're in the bog. We're not allowed in the bog. It's dangerous. But, you know, Geraldine knows this place, so I follow her. I follow in her footsteps as she walks very carefully across the bog so as not to sink. And when we reach the other side, we look back and we see Micheál coming across the fields towards us. Geraldine says, hide. We drop into a stream bed and we watch over the edge of the stream bed as Micheál comes across the fields. And we watch as he gets closer and then, poof, he's gone. Where'd he go? Geraldine says, he's just fallen. He'll be up in a minute. And we watch, and we watch, and we wait, and no Micheál. And I get a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I think, something bad has happened to Micheál. We wait, but he never appears. And we retrace our steps, and we're calling, Micheál, Micheál, no answer. Geraldine says, he's found his way home. Let's go down to the sea. She's older. She knows her brother. She knows this place. So I go, okay. And we go off to the sea. We go through one more field and then the beach opens up. It's a big, wide beach covered in huge boulders. The smell of seaweed is really strong and the salt stings my face. I see something that looks like a jello mold, and I say, what's that? And Geraldine says, that's a jellyfish, it'll sting. We climb in the boulders and play in the tidal pools. We look at the mollusks and the crabs and more seaweed, and it's absolutely magical. But I can't stop thinking about Micheál and where is he and what happened to him. And I have this sick feeling that my ringing the bell has called in bad things. Eventually we go home, and as we're crossing the last field towards the house, we see my mother in the doorway. She's standing there with her arms crossed, and I think, oh, we're in trouble. And as we get closer, I hide behind Geraldine, and my mom says, "Where's Michal?" Geraldine, innocent as, says, "Oh, is he not at home? I thought he was at home." My mum says, "I thought he was with you." Geraldine says, "No, I told him to stay home." My mum says, "He fell in the bog. He could have drowned." Relief washes over me. Michal's okay. We're still in trouble. But then my mum bursts out laughing. She says, "I found him in the barn. He was in his underwear. He was red, head to toe, dyed with bog water. And he was washing his clothes before his mum could find him." And then I'm really relieved, because everything's okay. And then my mum says, "Don't say anything, or I'll get in trouble." That night I sit beside Michal at dinner, and I say, "How are you?" He says, "I'm fine. Why?" And I say, "Well, do you want to watch TV later?" And he perks up and he says, "Yeah, all right, we'll watch football." And so we watch football, and then I go up to bed, into my big, beautiful, overstuffed bed, piled high with blankets and my hot water bottle. I'm snug as a bug in a rug. But I wake up in the middle of the night to the window rattling, and the wind is howling, and it sounds like a scream. And the hair goes up on the back of my neck, and I think, oh, I've called the banshee. And then I say, "Don't be stupid. Go to sleep." And I curl back down under my covers. And I'm almost asleep when I hear the creaking outside the door, and someone is coming down the hall. And I try to ignore it, but the creaks continue. And then I hear the bell. I sit bolt upright in bed. I'm at full attention, and I'm listening carefully as the creaks come closer and closer to my door. I watch as the doorknob turns and the door opens slowly, and I'm paralyzed with fear. And in the doorway is a figure, a white figure holding a bell, and I cannot see her face. I scream. I scream and scream and scream and scream until Michal drops the sheet and screams, "Shut up! Shut up! It's me! You're gonna get me in trouble!" But it's too late. I can't stop screaming. So I scream, and my mom and my aunt and my cousins all come running down the hall, and my aunt pushes Michal out of the way, and she hugs me and rocks me and says, it's all right. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. And my mom has to spend the rest of the night with me because I can't sleep alone. And Michal got in trouble. But I never left him out after that. And I never rang the bell again.